Well, I've been a fan of Boston Celtics for, my whole life pretty much.
First Celtics game was back when I was like 7 years old.
The Boston Celtics became legendary.
What is going on, you guys? It is your boy Jesse Almeida here on YouTube and on Beantown Takes, and today we're doing something a little bit different this time around. Obviously, as you guys know, we have not had a podcast in a very, very long time. Mike's been very busy with his other jobs that he's doing. He's like carrying around 2 or 3 other jobs right now. And he's been super busy, so I haven't really been able to connect with him as much as I wanted to. But today we're going to figure out a way to move forward with that if we can't do a podcast. And today we're going to do a reaction video. And what we are going to be reacting to is, are the Boston Celtics contenders again? And how will Derrick White change everything? Yeah, I just put out an article on my website. The link is in the description down below to the website. Go check it out. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe right now if you guys are new. You guys know what to do. And yeah, let's check it out.
After the first few months of the season, a lot of people were ready to count out the Boston Celtics. They started out the season with a disappointing 19-21 record, and it prompted a lot of concern over the fit between the two Jays, the front office's ability to put a decent supporting cast around them, and it fueled an...
I pause for a second, too, because I figured, too, this is going to be a lot... If I can't get podcasts out because Mike's obviously busy doing stuff, I figure instead of you guys listening to just me talking the whole time, that would be boring, obviously. This is how I would do kind of like my own opinions on the Boston sports at the moment, if I'm by myself at least. So, just wanted to throw that out there as well. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit more watchable than just watching me on your screen, just saying what I think. That's just boring, obviously. I don't want to bore you guys. I want to make this somewhat entertaining and to be able to connect off of other people's thoughts. So,
endless supply of trade rumors for the first half of the season. Now, the Celtics have managed to rack up a promising amount of wins over the last 20 games, prompting many NBA fans to ask the question, have the Celtics figured it out? So in this video, we're going to look at what exactly they're doing differently. We're going to see how their moves before the trade deadline set them up for success going forward, and why they're a bigger threat in the East than people realize. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Let's get right into it.
Shout out to this guy who made the video.
As it currently stands, the Boston Celtics hold the longest active win streak in the league after their win against the Atlanta Hawks on Monday.
Well, now they've lost
now
against
won
a
8
weak-ass
straight games and are
Detroit
9-1
team,
in their last
we're not going
10.
to talk about that.
This team was constantly in the headlines at the beginning of the season, with people claiming one of either Jaylen Brown
Shout
or
out to this
Jayson
guy who
Tatum
made this
was gonna
video. I'll
need to
leave
be
his link in the
traded.
description
The
below as
roster
well.
was constructed poorly, there were locker room problems, and all sorts of other reports. You have to consider the fact that this was largely a new team heading into this season. They had a new front office, they had a new coach, and some new and familiar faces returning to the lineup that had to be gotten up to speed. You can't expect a team that underwent so many changes to hop onto the court and immediately integrate with one another right out of the gate. Sometimes we simplify these things and then wonder why they don't go well, when the truth is there are so many different factors and variables at play that forming a simplistic view of the situation is kind of naive. So when the Celtics started off rough, the criticisms and reports followed. But as they say,
who remembers when Jaylen Brown had
this
this
the Boston
hairdo?
Celtics have been doing
Man, he
a
was
lot of
baby
winning recently.
Jaylen Brown back in the day.
Since the start of the new year, they've got a record of 16-6. Over the last 15 games of the season, they've been the best defensive team in the entire NBA, with a defensive rating of 99 points allowed per 100 possessions, which is a ridiculous 11.6 points better than the league average defensive rating. They also clock a whopping 14.6 net rating over this same stretch of
And
games.
guys, keep in mind,
they've been playing as a team on both ends of the
stopping
floor,
teams
and it's really
under
starting to
100
show
points
up
nowadays
in the win
is
column
hard.
and in the stat sheet.
So the fact
Jayson
that
Tatum
they
has been on fire
are
after
giving
a
up less than
suboptimal
100
start to the
points a
year.
game,
Many people, including myself, were
average,
expecting
that's pretty
this
damn
to be
good.
the year that Tatum went from being just an all-star / fringe all-NBA player to taking the leap into MVP discussions and becoming a top 10 player in the NBA. So when that didn't happen at the beginning of the year, alarm bells understandably started to go off in the minds of Celtics fans.
right.
He was still getting the numbers that we've come to expect, but the shooting was uncharacteristically bad. Tatum was shooting with a true shot percentage of 51.1% through the first 20 games of the season. Tatum has never been some hyper-efficient scorer, and nobody is going to make the argument that he is or ever was. But this level of poor shooting over a stretch of games like that was concerning to say the least. Now, fast forward to now, this shooting is looking miles better.
Fact.
A 57.9 true shot percentage with 26.2 points per game. And while the three-point shooting this year isn't quite what it was last year, he's been able to find other ways to score without relying on his three-point shot.
And that's been his issue, I want to say, pretty much most of his career. He would not attack the basket. He would just be soft and, again, like he just said, rely on the three-point shot. And we can't have him just rely on the three-point shot. You got to be able, if you're that level of talent, you need to be able to drive to the basket. You got to be able to find other ways to get the ball in the hoop. And this year so far, he's done that. So that's the jump that we've been waiting for from Jayson Tatum.
My hope is that this shooting trend continues upwards over the rest of the regular season so he can roll into the playoffs with
He's
a
not
hot
as
hand.
predictable.
It seems he and Jalen have been much more on the same page lately. This play is a great example of that chemistry. They're in a transition opportunity, and Brown is going up the middle with Tatum bringing the ball up the floor. You can see Brown is motioning for the pass and making eye contact with Jayson Tatum. Tatum is going to make a really slick pass and split basically three defenders, allowing
Normally, he
Brown
would
to
just
get
take
to the
the
rim
jumper
for an easy
for
layup.
a three.
Also, Jaylen Brown has been doing some dirty work on offense, and I love it. You can see on this play that Grimes is looking to stay with Tatum and double him at the top of the key. But Brown sets what can only loosely be described as a
That's
screen,
a bad call
and
by
he
the ref.
completely
That's
shuts
such a
down the
moving
double
screen,
team.
but
When Grimes
I get what he's
overcorrects
saying.
trying to cover
The
Brown
switch,
and
he
Tatum,
switched
expecting
on.
Tatum
He
drive,
switched off of
Tatum
Julius
finds
Randle
Brown,
to get
and
open.
he knocks down the wide open three. For all the reports about these guys not being able to coexist with one another, they're doing a pretty good job of coexisting with one another. I won't argue that there are some noticeably tense moments from earlier in the season, but they seem to be much more on the same page as of late. With Jaylen Brown's vastly improved shot creation ability, the only thing missing was somebody to connect the two, and that leads me to my next point. The Celtics had a big trade deadline, seeing a large chunk of their roster being moved in favor of replacing quantity with quality.
Ooh,
They shored up their rotation a bit to go out.
That's a good point. That's a good point right there. Yeah, Josh Richardson was shooting the ball better this year than normal. But at times, I would say Josh Richardson was inconsistent. There'd be some nights where he would shoot lights out and score maybe 15 points off the bench. But then there'd be some nights where he doesn't score any off the bench. And even though, yes, Josh Richardson is a better shooter probably. Excuse me, god damn it. Even though, yes, Josh Richardson might be a better shooter than Derrick White. Derrick White overall is a way better player than Josh Richardson, in my opinion at least. Josh Richardson needed the ball in his hands in order to succeed. Derrick White, however, does not need the ball in his hands in order to succeed. So, in other words, Josh Richardson pretty much needs to score in order to succeed. Derrick White doesn't need to score. Derrick White averages about 15 points a game while averaging 6 assists a night. It's a good little balance there. And where he mentions quality over quantity, yes, Derrick White has more of a quality than Josh Richardson. He is more consistent than Josh Richardson. Even though he is struggling from shooting this year, you can bank on six assists a night. And he makes decisions really quickly. And that means that every time out, he's unpredictable. And that's what the Celtics needed. They needed another playmaker on this team. Derrick White fits that category. And I didn't even know this about Derrick White. He is one of the best defenders in the defending guards in the league. I did not know that. I thought he was good or decent at defense, but I didn't think he was like at that top tier elite level. So you had that in the mix. Josh Richardson was not as good as is not that good of a defender. You're placing quality over quantity. The quantity is Josh Richardson and his shooting, while the quality is Derrick White and his overall game. That's huge. And you have more control with Derrick White for the next 3 years compared to Josh Richardson after this year, who will have 1 year left on his contract. So, it's a good move. It was a good move.
Get Derrick White, and they also traded for Daniel Tice. While I think Daniel Tice can be impactful for the Celtics, I want to focus more on Derrick White and what he brings to the table for them, because it's a lot. Derrick White is a player that, unless you're watching a ton of basketball and you're a pretty diehard fan of the NBA, you probably aren't too familiar with Derrick White, and you might not know a ton about him. White is a Spurs player to a T. You can tell that he played for Greg Popovich. What I mean by this is that he's a constant movement, split-second decision maker.
Yep.
He brings a ton of movement to this offense, and his ability to keep the offense moving is going to rejuvenate a team that can occasionally get stagnant and predictable. He's listed as a shooting guard, but White possesses no shortage of playmaking ability. Averaging 5.5 assists per game this year, he's got the ability to operate in the pick and roll. He can pass in transition. He can drive and kick. He's a Swiss Army knife of a guard. And that's while being a very efficient playmaker, averaging less than 2 turnovers per game this year. That's why I'm not really concerned with them trading away Josh Richardson in the picks they did to acquire Derrick White. He provides the same things that Schroeder and Richardson provided, all wrapped up into one player. Yeah. He's such a smart ball handler, and he rarely looks flustered, even when he's in situations where he's forced to improvise. Like on this play, he takes the ball into the paint on a cut, but he loses his handle slightly, and he's forced to pick it up. He recovers the ball, and since Pirtle filled the paint correctly, he's still able to dump the pass off to him for an easy layup. The Celtics got a guy who can help run your half-court offense and also play on the fly in such a way that doesn't sacrifice quality for speed. He can mesh those two components together and keep things flowing. And this doesn't even cover his defense. Derrick White is legitimately one of the best defensive guards in the entire NBA.
I didn't know this.
He's just pesky, and he makes life so hard for ball handlers. He's getting a steal and a half per game, but while he's not exactly a pickpocket kind of guy, he's very effective as a perimeter defender. He ranks 5th in Basketball Index's off-ball chaser defensive metric among guards and 2nd in their on-ball perimeter defense metric, making him one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire NBA right now. He's also drawn the 3rd most charges in the league this year with 19 charges. He's a hustler, and with how good he already is at everything else, that hustle and defensive ability is just an added bonus. For a team that's already been so great on defense over the last 15 games, he's going to be vital to their continued success on the defensive and offensive end of the floor. But what does all of this mean for a Celtics team that's perennially good enough to make the playoffs, but they haven't been able to make it out of the Eastern Conference yet? To me, they really feel like a true dark horse threat to make it out of the East.
I agree.
We know they have the top-end talent in the two Jays, and now they have a more well-rounded supporting cast with a diverse skill set. The defensive backcourt of Derrick White and Marcus Smart is going to be a nightmare, and he's going to be able to operate as a connector between the two Jays. He's literally the perfect fit because he augments their skills while not stepping on their toes and taking away from them.
Right.
This team, if things keep trending the way they are going to be a really tough out for any team that they run into in the playoffs. After the questions of if they were going to be a play-in team, they're now only 4.5 games back from the 1 seed. And with how contested this Eastern Conference has been, that 1 seed is entirely up for grabs. So, do you think the Boston Celtics are threats to come out of the East? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and leave a like on the video because that's the number one way to help me out with the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Okay, so if the Celtics finish, there's 81 games in a season, if they finish 48-33, that's a pretty good season for the fact that you struggled at the beginning of the year. That would be a good year for you. I would think at 48-33, you would finish 4 or 5, guaranteed. I don't think you are better than these two teams, and that's Miami, Milwaukee, and I guess I'll say Brooklyn. If they're healthy, if they are fully loaded healthy, then yeah, obviously you're not better than Brooklyn. But other than those 3 teams, I think you could compete with any team in the East. The Bulls are good right now. If you want to say the Bulls are better than the Celtics, that's fine. But I really think the Celtics could take them in the series. I think Philly just sold. Yes, they got James Harden. However, at the same time, they gave up some major pieces from their ball club. They gave up Seth Curry, who's been shooting lights out all season, who filled the need for the Sixers to have a consistent three-point shooter. So they don't have a consistent shooter anymore. And they got rid of Andre Drummond in the same deal, who is a very, very, very good backup to Joel Embiid. He's not a stretch big by any means, but coming off the bench, he didn't need to be. Because all he needed to do, really, is just get the rebound, put it back up, and just play defense. That's all he had to do was rebound and play defense. That's all he had to do off the bench. And then obviously Ben Simmons was not playing, but still, you give that to Brooklyn with what they have now, and now they add Seth Curry and they add Andre Drummond. That's ridiculous. I feel like Philly gave up a lot just to get James Harden. And I don't know if that's gonna fit too for them. Their starting 5 now is Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Matisse Thybulle, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. And then the bench, Shake Milton, and the rest are nobodies. So I definitely think you're better than the Sixers. I definitely think you can take the Sixers. You're better than Cleveland. You're better than Toronto. Who else is in the mix that I'm forgetting off the top of my head? I think that's it. I think that's kind of the middle of the pack. You got a shot. The Celtics have a chance to make some noise this year. And I hope they do, because recently they've been fun to watch. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you guys for watching again. Let me know if you guys enjoy this type of video instead of me just talking out of my butt and boring the hell out of you guys. At least now here I can like have something to like analyze or whatever. Like when Mike was here, I'd be going off of like what he says. He's feeding my opinions to him, he feeds mine, and then we debate whatever. This is kind of me doing the same thing. I'm watching something and then going off of what they're saying and giving my own thoughts on it. So, if you guys want to check out the article, the link is in the description down below. Go check out my website. Hit subscribe right now. We just hit 200 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. We're just going to keep on growing and growing and growing. The grind doesn't end, guys. It's been Jesse, and I'm gone. Later, guys.